Welcome to our free vet preparation course. Whether you own a puppy and you're trying to be proactive, or you own an older dog who's struggling to cope with the stress of going to the vet clinic, this free course is going to show you how to prepare for your next or first veterinarian visit. In this course, you'll learn how to prepare for the vet clinic. You'll learn some of the tools that will assist you, and of course, how and what to do when you're in the examination room. So this is Maverick. He's a 5-month-old German Shepherd puppy, and he'll be helping us today demonstrate a typical young dog. So we'll be showing his owners how they can help him feel even more comfortable and confident as he matures into an adult dog. So grab a pen, piece of paper, and get ready to write down some notes. So what does your dog get out of going to the veterinarian? You gotta think of it through your dog's perspective. If they go into the vet and every single time they get poked with a needle and there's some sort of negative thing happening, it's very, very difficult for them to build positive associations with going to the veterinarian. So what you wanna be thinking of is you wanna be doing a minimum of 5 times going to the veterinarian, making it positive for every time that you need to go and have an examination or something that's going to induce stress in your dog. Remember, at least 5 repetitions, making it fun for every time that it's going to be stressful on your dog. Never forget that your veterinarian and the staff at the clinic are always going to be helpful when you bring your dogs in to do training. The reason for this is the less stressed your dog is when they're coming to the clinic, obviously it makes it easier for the dog. It also makes it easier for the staff. So all that you have to do is ask them, hey, can I bring in my dog? Can I do some training? Can I put them on the scale? Trust me, every clinic will absolutely be on board with that. So some of the tools you might want to have ready when you go to the clinic. First thing, you're going to want to have some treats. These are just dehydrated liver treats. Dogs tend to really love these things. Obviously, you have to figure out what you're going to be giving your dog if your dog has any type of food allergies or anything like that. But these tend to be something that dogs absolutely go crazy for. So get yourself some treats. Some of the other tools to be thinking about here are your collars and leashes. So this right here is often referred to as what we call a slip lead. And essentially what this does is it makes it difficult for a dog to back out. So a lot of vet clinics will actually use these when they're working on dogs, because if a dog gets a little bit scared, then they're not going to be able to back out of their collar. So this can be a really good tool, especially for safety's sake. If you want to have a collar that will do something very similar, this is what's referred to as a martingale collar. As you can see, when I start putting some pressure on it, it will actually cinch down. So what that's going to do is, if this is connected right here, it's just going to get tighter if the dog tries to back out. So very similar to the slip lead, it's just in collar form. We've also got some different muzzles here. This is referred to typically as a vet style muzzle or a nylon muzzle. It's a relatively cheap and inexpensive muzzle. It's typically only used for very short-term purposes because it closes the mouth of the dog so much. So your dog won't be able to breathe really, really well for a situation where they would be outside or something of that nature. But inside the vet clinic, it can be a good tool to be using just for really short-term situations like at a vet clinic. If you want to step it up a little bit more, you could potentially use something like this muzzle here, which is from Baskerville. This is a really good quality muzzle. They're widely available in most pet stores. You can also buy them online. And the cool thing about these muzzles is if your dog's nose is not perfectly fitting in here, if you've got a decent size, one of the things you can do is you can actually boil this in water. A lot of people don't know this. You get it nice and pliable, and then if you want to make it a little bit thinner, all you got to do is put a couple of books on it, and let it just come back to room temperature, and it's going to be in that position. So you can actually get a pretty good fit on these things. They've also got a top strap, which helps keeping it on your dog. And also there's a lot of airflow through here too. So if you have a dog that's got some reactivity or aggression issues, it can be valuable at the vet, but maybe also in a context for taking your dog for a walk, or if somebody else has to handle your dog. So you've got kind of multiple applications for this. So this is a muzzle from a company called Jafco, and this is a pretty extreme muzzle, not something most dogs are going to need, but it is beneficial for a couple of different things. If your dog has some pretty significant aggression issues, it can be a good tool to have in the toolbox. And essentially the reason why it can be valuable for those extreme cases is if the dog tries to bite somebody, they're not going to hurt themselves because it's a really soft plastic. It's got good usability all the way around, whereas with this one you've got some open spaces, so it's not as safe. So one of the things you can also do with it is cut a hole through the front with just a little knife, and you can also be putting treats through there. You don't get a lot of ventilation, so I don't suggest using this for a prolonged period of time, just short spurts like going to the vet clinic. And you can get them in a top strap as well too. I always suggest using the top strap. So now that we've talked about some of the tools, let's talk about how to prepare for your examination. Crate training. Whether you use it at home or not, it can be something that's very beneficial to teach your dog to prepare them in case there's an emergency. So maybe your dog has to get spayed or neutered. Well, chances are they're going to wake up inside a vet clinic inside some sort of a crate device. So it can be really beneficial to teach your dog these things and be proactive. The best way to do that is to make it fun. One of the simplest ways of doing this is always feed your dog inside of a kennel. Even though you might not use this at home on a day-to-day basis, feed them inside there, get them used to going inside of the crate, because it might very well pay off. When you walk into a vet clinic and there's slippery floors, you might not even think twice about them, but your dog may be very concerned about those slippery floors. So keep in mind, if your dog is concerned, take your time, walk them through it slowly, and be proactive by bringing them in, bringing treats, making it fun, and taking your time. So one of the things you're going to have to do every time you go to the clinic is put your dog on the weight scale to get your dog's weight. So you can prepare for this easily at home by teaching your dog to jump onto different types of surfaces. So we did it really simply with Maverick, just using treats to lure him onto this specific boundary, and then we extended that over to the weight scale. This is something that's really easy to do at home. You can do it in the yard, the front yard, the backyard. You can do it in the kitchen. You can do it in the living room. Stop by your local veterinary clinic and practice before you actually need your dog to respond the way that you want them to. So one of the things I oftentimes see at vet clinics is people nurturing anxiety in their dogs without actually knowing it. So here's what this means. As dog trainers, we will often say, what you pet is what you get. So if you bring your dog to the clinic and they're sitting in the waiting room and they're really stressed out, you got to keep in mind that maybe you need to do a little bit more training before you actually have them sitting there in the waiting room. But if you're in that situation, or if there's an emergency, what you need to be doing is not making the problem worse. If your dog thinks that this means good job, keep doing what you're doing, because that's something that you've done by going for a walk with your dog, having them sit at a stoplight, and you're doing that, and you're also doing it in the waiting room, oftentimes there can be a miscommunication between owner and dog. Sometimes they will perceive that mom or dad actually wants them to be stressed out, when of course that's not at all what we're trying to communicate. So I typically suggest if your dog is stressed out, try not to be reinforcing that anxiety. Try doing something a little bit different. Maybe luring your dog with a treat, getting them to do sits, getting them to do downs, Getting them to focus on a command is typically going to be more constructive. So you might not be aware of this, but one of the things many front desk staff and vet technicians will do is offer your dog a treat before they take your dog's leash. And the reason that they're doing this is they're trying to assess how stressed out your dog is in that given moment. So if they offer your dog a treat and they're not willing to take it, they're going to take special precaution because they are typically going to think that your dog is really stressed out. Remember, if your dog is in a fight or flight response, they might decide, whoa, don't really care about my stomach all that much right now. So this is something you can look for as well too with your dog. If the vet technician is stopping to give them a treat and they're not taking it, take a little bit more precaution. When you go into the exam room and you're meeting with your veterinarian, again, ask if they can give a treat, see how things progress, and if they're not, then again, proceed with a little bit more caution. So there's plenty of different things that we can do to prepare your dog for the actual examination before you go into the clinic. So some of these things are going to be, your veterinarian will typically be looking in your dog's ears, may even be putting something into their ear to take a temperature. They'll be looking in their eyes to see how things are going there, looking at the teeth, looking at the feet and in between the feet. They will typically be holding them nice and tight against their body during the examination. And these are all things that you can actually train for before you go into the clinic. So the way that you train for them is you make them part of your daily schedule. So when your dog is gonna get a treat before bed, okay, fine. Sit for me, I'm gonna look in your ears, boom, we give you your treat. Might be, okay, I'm gonna look at your teeth, boom, we give you your treat. The whole idea here is these things should not only be happening in the context of we're at the vet, you're already a little bit stressed out, and now this is going to happen. So you need to be playing through these scenarios before you actually need to have your dog respond to you the way that you're looking to have them respond. So never be afraid to give your dog a cool down time after they are in for an examination or vaccinations, right? It can be a little bit stressful for them to go through these things with people they don't know all that well, but don't allow them to just take you directly out of the clinic. Stick around there for a little bit, put them back up on the scale, have a little bit of fun with them before you actually take them outside. Well, there you have it. So now you know what to do to prepare for your next vet visit. But of course, your next vet visit is not the one where your dog gets a vaccination. It is going to be 5 more vet visits when you're just driving by the clinic and you've stopped in with some treats to have some fun. The knowledge is only beneficial if you do something with it. Trust me, it may seem tedious, but it is time very well spent. If there's an emergency and your dog has to go to the clinic, all of that time will be very well spent.